From Buffalo Wild Wings on Louise Avenue in Sioux Falls, welcome to Benchwarmers. Today's featured guests are Augustana head men's basketball coach Tom Billeter, sports director at KDLT-TV and host of Calling All Sports, Mark Ovenden, assistant general manager of Badlands Speedway, Tom Savage, and our host, Midco Sports Network's Tom Nieman.
Hello and welcome to Benchwarmers as we kick it off in 2016 here at Buffalo Wild Wings on Louise Avenue in Sioux Falls. I am Tom Nieman, and one of the most intelligent and handsome panels we've ever assembled for the show. No question. Tom Savage, well, one time was a PR guy with the LA Lakers, with the Indy Racing League. We're going to talk with Tom a little bit. Tom Billeter, head coach of the Division II National Basketball Champions from Augustana.
That's a nice ring.
Who says he coached Steph Curry in college, and we'll talk about that.
Taught Steve everything he knows about shooting. It had a lot to do with his career as I was a grad assistant, picking up Coach Olson's dry cleaning and making sure his dog was fed and everything else. I'd rebound for Steve at midnight too.
Nice work. Well done.
It was a gig. I had to do it.
Mark Ovenden, who knows everything about everything in South Dakota sports and everywhere else. Good to have you.
Thanks. How'd I get invited to this? Tom?
Yeah, we could.
Tom.
That's right.
Tom
Mark. Miller, all the other Toms were busy, but thanks for coming.
Sure.
Appreciate it. We're coming off a Memorial Day weekend. Monday night was fabulous, at least for me. You had the NHL Stanley Cup Finals getting started. You had the NBA Game 7 with Oklahoma City and Golden State going on at the same time. The movie Step Brothers was on Comedy Central at the same time, so you just flip around between those. Were you guys going back and forth a little bit, or
watched a lot of NBA. I was with Seattle, the Sonics, when Kevin Durant was a rookie. So I've kind of, as everyone else has, sort of followed his career. But watching that Game 7 was very interesting. I spent 1 year in Oklahoma City, so a lot of fun watching that game. That series was a great series.
And Durant, personally, you say, is a heck of a guy.
He's a very nice guy, very nice kid. When I was with him in Seattle, he was 19 years old, just a very young man, but super nice and really loves Oklahoma City. He loves it down there. So everybody talking about where he's going to go next year. Yeah. It's interesting. But I do know that he does love it down there. So we'll see. I'm interested to watch that too.
All right.
It's fun to make comparisons. What we've been doing a lot in the office and talking about are like these teams that are in the going out of the championship, and even the last 4 teams. Compare them back to the 80s. Back when the Pistons were playing and the Lakers were playing, and there's so many more NBA teams now than back then. Even if you want to go further back to when there were 12 teams when Bill Russell
Let's
and all
go back
those
to the
guys
60s.
were playing.
Yeah.
Where is the state of NBA basketball now versus back then? And it seems like these teams all have a superstar. You can go right down the list of LeBron. You can go Steph Curry. You can go to Kevin Durant. But they have another Kyrie Irving, who is every bit as valuable right now as LeBron during this series. Obviously, you've got Westbrook. Obviously, Thompson is having an unbelievable year, a great Game 6. I mean, where in the world are the other 3 players? And now you go back into the 60s, and you can name all 5 starters from the Celtics. You can name back then the Philadelphia Sixers when it was Hal Greer and Wilt Chamberlain. We can all go those directions. Where is the game?
If you have a big 3 right now, you're pretty set, aren't you? I mean, it seems that way, and all these teams are shooting teams. You got to be able to shoot the 3-point shot, and Golden State, they get out-rebounded a lot of times. They don't get to the free throw line a lot. They turn it over a lot, but they make so many more 3-point shots, and it's fun to watch. And those are the teams that are winning right now. Cleveland, the matchup in the NBA Finals, Cleveland in the playoffs so far is actually a better 3-point shooting team than Golden State. So the finals matchup is going to be phenomenal.
It ought to be, although I don't think anybody can shoot threes with Golden State. That's how they came back on Saturday night in Game 6. They looked dead in the water at Oklahoma City. That game looked like it was over.
And they're playing with an incredible looseness. When they do miss 5 or 6 or 7, you have a head coach that could care less how many you miss, take the next one. They play such, you have Draymond Green leading breaks, and they play such an unorthodox type of game, and then he'll put up a couple of threes, and he's one of those classic tweener players that kind of does a little bit of everything. He's a young man that reminds me of, he's great on that team. Now he could go free agent and sign for a ton of money, and I'm not sure his career would be as good somewhere else. I think he's on the perfect team for that situation. And I do think, Adams is a great example, I thought, the big kid for Oklahoma. You've got just a different special kids that kind of fit in with those groups. I don't know how good they'll be somewhere else. Durant would be good anywhere he decides to go. But it's an interesting series I just think of how the teams play now with Cleveland, with their new coaching change and Lou, and it's just kind of interesting. I think you're seeing a looseness and it's just a little bit of a different. The game has changed. It's a different game. It's not an inside-out game.
Let's talk about that a little bit. The coaching influence. Steve Kerr, obviously, you think is a very good coach. Tyronn Lue for Cleveland, when they made that switch to him, and they supposedly got better. How much influence, though, does an NBA coach have? You were around with Phil Jackson and Larry Bird and these guys.
Yeah,
but that's a different time too.
It was a different time. When Steve Kerr missed a lot of the season this year, I don't know if you saw his first game back, they mic'd him, and he was sitting down with Luke Walton, and they went down and Curry hit a 30-foot three-pointer, and he looked over at him and said, "That's good coaching right there. That is just good coaching." It is different. There's no question. It's different. Again, when I was with Phil Jackson, Larry Bird, it was more of the grinded out type of game, I thought. But that's where Golden State.
But that's a triple post offense and the way they play. There's no doubt.
Yep. But Golden State, they grind it out more than I think people think. I mean, they're known for their 3-pointers and everything, but they defend incredibly. They defend, do. Yeah. And I'm interested in this series just because of what you just said. Cleveland shoots the 3 better than Golden State. No one thinks about that. And Golden State, they play great defense. They grind it out. It's going to be interesting.
And when you have a go-to guy like LeBron, I mean,
who is the coach of the Cavaliers, by the way?
Absolutely. Now maybe it's been since Blatt left. I don't know. I mean, you could watch you can watch their practices on NBA Channel and stuff, and you can kind of see back then maybe it's changed a little bit. I don't know, but you have a guy that any situation you're in, he's going to do something. Now, he might not make it every time, but he's going to either get to the foul line more times than fail. And then when it gets to this point of the year in those finals, I think when there's 4 teams left, any go-to guy, almost at any level, to be quite honest, is an unbelievable advantage.
That's where you're saying that Steph Curry is not as much of a takeover guy as LeBron James?
Well, LeBron could do more things. I mean, he's a man-child out there. He has been ever since we thought he was 40 when he first showed up as a rookie out of high school. And he plays that way. He's he kind of reminds me of Wilt Chamberlain back in the day in terms of being big and strong and being able to take over a game, but he can do more than Wilt could do. So he's my MVP, but Steph Curry is arguably the best shooter in the history of the game if he keeps this up, and they're a shooting team, and that's what makes them good.
Golden State beat them twice during the season, beat them by like 34 back in January. That's when Cleveland was kind of in flux, but the NBA Finals going to be great. We're going to come back, talk a little bit about the NBA draft.
We didn't talk about hockey at all, guys.
Hockey in a second.
It was a hockey game.
Stanley Cup Finals are the greatest thing in sport.
Can't wait to hear what you two have to say about hockey.
Tom Savage when we come back.
Benchwarmers on Midco Sports Network is presented by Buffalo Wild Wings.
Welcome back to Benchwarmers. Buffalo Wild Wings here in Sioux Falls on Louise Avenue. And one thought on the Stanley Cup Finals. Game 1 was phenomenal on Monday night. The last 2.5 minutes were crazy. Pittsburgh beats San Jose. You like the NHL playoffs all the way through.
Why? Oh, I love them. It's not as much fun when my Bruins aren't playing, but you got to win 4 best-of-7 series to be the Stanley Cup champion. I don't think there's any playoff format like that. Now, granted, in the NBA, but the NBA and the NHL are 2 different kind of animals. NHL is a very fast, hard-hitting, physical sport, and by the end of a 7-game series, when you played the same team 7 times in a row, you hate each other, and there's bad blood.
It's a very high-scoring sport, too.
Yeah.
Very comparable to the NBA that way.
Yeah.
And they play it on ice.
Yeah. You just don't like hockey.
No, I think they're great. I love their interviews. They're very good people, and they're humble.
Then we start with the second series, and you start all over again, okay? And you get to the 7th, you get to the 4th series, which is the Stanley Cup Finals, and these 2 teams are, they're whipped to a frenzy. So it's just fun to watch.
So you don't think the NBA's physical?
Not quite as physical as hockey.
It's pretty physical.
And there is something, too, if you're either in love with hockey or you're kind of lukewarm about it.
I think they're great athletes and great individuals. Boy, I think they are unbelievable. They're really good.
And the Cup Finals are like watching the Indy 500. We'll talk about that here.
I appreciate it, for sure. I absolutely appreciate it. I'm not the biggest fan that you are, Mark, clearly, but I appreciate it. Absolutely.
They're tough guys.
Again, when in the NBA, a lot of arenas, you share the same arenas as the hockey team. So, we got to know some of those. And we went to a lot of NHL games when I was traveling around the NBA. So.
All right. Tom Billeter and the Augustana Vikings won the Division II Men's Basketball National Championship this past season. Congratulations.
Well, I appreciate it. They overcame their coaching. I tell everybody that. It's the truth. I had really good players with 3 really good senior starters who were leaders. And when you have that combination, You have to get there. Once you're at the Elite Eight, and Mark was a part of all of it, it's a whole new turn. You just have to win 3 games. It's that simple. It's hard to explain, but once we were there, it just seemed like a whole nother animal. It just seemed like a whole different situation, and then seniors help.
And then you get there, and your All-American Player of the Year doesn't play the first game.
Yeah, well, I'm smart. I was scrimmaging. We were actually scrimmaging to 8 points the day before the game, and he got a rebound, came down like he's done a million times in his life, and broke his foot. So, and I do that before every game, but don't think I sat all night going, why in the world were we scrimmaging before the Elite Eight? But that's what we do.
But in the championship game, those 3 seniors you're talking about, Augie beats Lincoln Memorial. Dan Jansen, 25 points. Alex Richter, 26 points. Casey Schilling, 20 points, 19 rebounds. And have you ever heard of a team ever that has the all-time top 2 scorers on their team in the same class? I've never, ever heard of that. Have you heard of that anymore?
No.
With Jansen and Schilling at Augustana.
Alex Richter had the game of his life in the first game when Dan couldn't play.
32, picked up the extra 18 points.
He doesn't have that game. They're down by 20 in the first half, and I'm sitting there going, we just flew back from California, drove all night to get to Texas.
Yeah, you made that real clear to me, too. I was feeling it, trust me. Kept looking at Mark, and he's
I'm
like
looking over
staring
at
at me.
and going,
But Tom, you knew that. Everybody was saying, if they don't win this whole thing, something's wrong, right?
That's how I felt
all year, right?
It was even my players were that way. You know, we win the conference championship tournament, and Dan Jansen won't even touch the trophy because he's like, I don't care about that. We got to get to the Elite Eight and we have to win a national championship. I've never seen anything like that. I was pretty happy. I think anytime you win a championship, they're hard to get, you know, and our guys could have cared less about that. It was either win the national championship or we're a bad team, we're losers, and the year was for naught. I'm not kidding.
Once you got to the semis, it was.
But that first game was probably one of the most exhilarating games I have ever been to as a sportscaster or even as a fan, because they're down 20. Yeah. They score 57 points in the second half and beat basically the home team.
Yeah, who had been there the year before. Yeah. They were in the Elite Eight the year before.
It was phenomenal.
They're
just
very, very
knew
good
they were
team.
Going to win after
and
that.
You find out with 12 minutes to go till tip-off that Dan can't play because we were hoping, at the time we didn't know it was broke, you know, so we were hoping, and I knew if he said I can't play, he was hurting, you know, so to have that opportunity just gone was probably the best thing ever because we say, hey, Zach, you're in, and Zach Hughes just played, and he had 13 and 8, and, you know, those 3 seniors, but Adam Byer and Jordan Spencer were incredibly valuable along with John Warren off the bench. That was just a really good group of kids that came in and just gave us all they had.
That group, that team, a once-in-a-decade team, a once-in-a-lifetime team?
I'll stay 10 more years if I can get one more team like that.
Good luck.
Or like once-in-a-lifetime. Casey Schilling brought so much more to the table than any of his statistics would show.
One of the toughest kids of any. I mean, we've all been, I know in the NBA, and I've been in a lot of different places. He's arguably the toughest kid I've ever coached, and I've coached some tough kids.
He'd be a great hockey player.
He would be a great hockey player. He's
series are very physical, you know.
His mindset is, why are we playing if we're going to lose? Like, he doesn't get losing, you know, in anything. You know, just why, if we're here, we're going to win. He's just a very, but that, like you said,
they fed off him.
Feeds everyone else, and it was a special group. Great, you know, my staff just does a great job. But it was fun to have that following. How about the Augie fans that were there? CBS was talking about it. That's all they kept talking about was, man, you guys, you know, the angles of the camera and everything was just based at our fans because it was just full.
You know, I'll say too, I'm a University of Sioux Falls grad. And I know, you know, those 2 schools are 2 blocks apart. You're not supposed to like each other, but I could not have been more proud to be a Sioux Falls resident of that team. I'm telling you, I was.
And they gave us everything we could have in the NSIC tournament, a 105-100 win that we had over them, and we played as well as we could. It was a great college basketball game. We couldn't have played any better, and they were right there and had every opportunity to win it. They're doing good things over there.
I will say too, I'm curious about, it was Iowa that you beat, right? It was
beat Iowa. Yeah.
So
killed them by 2.
That's right.
On a last second
luck shot, right.
Barely made it by 100th of a second.
What is that like? I would love to have talked to you right after that, but to go down there.
You know, it was funny. We hit the shot. I go over to shake, you know, Fran McCaffrey's hand, who I've known for a long time, and his assistant, Kirk Spross, comes sprinting over. He goes, "This game isn't over yet. We're going to the film." They wouldn't even shake our hands. So don't tell me they didn't want to win that game. They wanted to win that game. So we checked the film. We win the game. I just walked off, and I see my assistant, Colin Authier, in the hallway. As soon as I got past their bench, I looked at him and go, how about that? That's exactly what I said. That was the amount of emotion I had for that game, but it was good. I ran into Fran at the Final Four, and he goes, "Coach," he goes, "we can't thank you enough." Anytime we were having a bad practice, I said, "Augustana." And he goes right away. Boy, intensity just picked up, and our guys just went at it as hard as they could. He told me that. So I do think, you know, we probably helped them, and they had a great year. Iowa had a very good year this year.
Again, as a Sioux Falls resident, I couldn't have been more proud when you guys went down there.
One of the great seasons we've seen around here in a long time. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk a little racing with Tom Savage, who's got some Indy Racing League background, now the PR director at Badlands Motor Speedway. We'll do that when we come back on Benchwarmers.
Benchwarmers on Midco Sports Network is presented by Buffalo Wild Wings.
Welcome back to Benchwarmers. Let's talk about the Indy 500. Tom Savage, at one point in his career, was the public relations director for the Indy Racing League.
That's right.
Correct?
Yes.
Talk about this race that just finished up, the 100th running of the Indy 500, and the finish was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're not into that sport, just to see the strategy play out it was unbelievable. The guy who won was a rookie, had never even seen the place up until he moved. He's actually from California, but he spent his racing years in Europe trying to make it into Formula One. He moved back, got a job with Brian Herta and Andretti Autosport, and the fact I was actually out at Badlands getting ready for the races that night, so I had it up on my internet, and I'd missed a good 2 hours, and I went up to looked on my website and it said Alexander Rossi won the race. I couldn't believe it. So when I watched it that night, it was an unbelievable call by the team. It was a complete fuel strategy. They were not the quickest car, but they were the first one to complete 500 miles, and that's all that matters. So it was amazing. He went 36 laps without pitting, and the fuel window at Indianapolis is 33, maybe 34. You can get 34 laps out, which is why all those cars that were in front of him with 3 laps to go, Rossi's running 5th, those first 4 cars all peeled off, then just got a splash of fuel. So he was the next one that should have peeled off, but they played it just right, and he had enough fuel for the finish line and an extra 200 feet maybe. So he ran out of fuel right as he crossed the finish line. And just over $2.5 million is the winning team's
nice roll
share.
Of dice, right?
Yes. Not bad. They came, second place was $700,000. So
it was a big drop off. So it was a good call. It was a smart move. Having
been at this race, the Indy 500, why is it the great American spectacle in racing, and why should it be on your bucket list to go see this?
I mean, it is still it's Christmas morning to me, Indianapolis 500 morning. There's 400,000 people there, and when I worked there, I used to get there really early in the morning, because if you didn't, you'd be stuck outside just trying to get 400,000 people into this facility. But I used to think to myself that 2 Sioux Falls showed up and left before when I got there and when I left. So it's an assault on your senses. It really is. Just seeing 33 cars fly down into turn 1, just the colors, the smells, it's just makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up thinking about it. It's an amazing event.
Very cool. And Badlands Motor Speedway, where you're at now, is off and running 2 weeks in now, right?
Yeah, we're at about $10 million right now in renovation. So if people went out there last year and they haven't been back since, it looks entirely different. It's all new grandstands. We got new electrical, plumbing, suites, new buildings out there. The grandstands are actually from Daytona. So at the Daytona International Raceway, where the Daytona 500 is, they took the bleachers off the backstretch, and those are now sitting out in Brandon.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty. It looks entirely different, and it's been fun. I grew up out at that place, so it's been fun.
And you're paying drivers in silver bars?
We did for the opener, and it's been fun. We bought $100,000 worth of silver bars last September, and it's been kind of fun watching what Silver's been doing. But over the winter, it was kind of going down, so we didn't say much about it. But a month before we opened, it spiked a little bit. So the winner at one point was at $32,000, but on race day it was just under $28,000. But still not a bad payday for some silver. Yeah, it's been fun.
We got to go. When we come back, Kelly Stewart goes into the crowd here at Wild Wings for our Winging It question of the week.
Benchwarmers on Midco Sports Network is presented by Buffalo Wild Wings.
Welcome back to Benchwarmers at Buffalo Wild Wings, and it's time for our Winging It question. We go into the crowd here. The lunchtime crowd. Kelly Stewart has our question this week.
Thanks, Tom. I'm here with Kendrick. He's from Rock Valley, and he has a question about the NBA Finals.
I was just wondering who you expect to win the NBA Finals and if LeBron is going to have to carry the Cavs again this year.
All right, great question. Back to you guys.
All right, Kendrick wants to know who's going to win the NBA Finals. Kelly Stewart picks Golden State, by the way. I think it's going to be Cleveland. I think they're finally going to get it done. That's the other part. Do you want LeBron to finally win one for Cleveland? That's part of the equation. But who are you taking, Tom?
Man, that's so tough. I mean, I'd hate to bet against Steph Curry, but if you do that and you take Steph Curry, it means you're betting against LeBron James, which is just that's tough. I think it's going to be a battle, neck and neck. 4 games, Golden State. No, it won't be 4 games. I'll go Golden State.
All right.
It's hard. I agree with everything he said. The hard part is I'm going to go with, I think Golden State, for whatever reason, is a team of destiny this year with the regular season, how they came back against Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to argue. I think it's a game of matchups. I will say this, Kevin Love could play a pivotal role in the entire thing because that's an interesting matchup. And that if Kevin Love has a great series, Cleveland will win it, but I'm going with Golden State.
And I'd like to see Cleveland win for the city of Cleveland.
Really?
They haven't had a championship in any sport in 60-some years.
When was that? The Browns?
It's been a long
60?
time.
No, Bears are 60.
But I think
You
Golden
don't
State
care
will win.
about Cleveland, but come on.
No, I do.
Okay.
I'd love to see those people.
Really?
You
Rock
think
and
about
Roll
how,
Hall of Fame
think
is
about
there.
how close. Well, Lake Erie caught on fire, for heaven's sake. Nobody wants to ever go to Cleveland. So, yeah, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is their claim to fame, actually.
Your heart says Cleveland.
My heart
What's your
says
head
Cleveland, but I think Golden State will win.
Really?
They're on a roll. They came back and won 3 straight, down 3-1 to Oklahoma City.
All right, so the Cavs are going to win it. There we go. When we come back, we will take a look at our poll question when we return on Benchwarmers.
Benchwarmers on Midco Sports Network is presented by Buffalo Wild Wings.
Our poll question this week on Benchwarmers: what sporting event you look forward to watching this summer? And by a wide margin here in the crowd at Buffalo Wild Wings, it is the Olympics that are on
They're on KDLT, so you better be watching. August 5th through August 21st.
KDLT NBC. Are you going to watch any of
I'm
these,
not changing
Thomas?
my mind. Yes, I am. I'm surprised at these numbers, actually. I love the Olympics, but the fact that the baseball was at 0.
A little early maybe for that question.
And the
That's
Twins. Did
gotta
the Twins
be,
won a
yeah.
game?
Well,
Yeah.
Twins are on pace to win 48 games.
I wish hockey was on here because I don't want all the people to write in and say, you hate hockey. I love hockey. They're tough guys. I wish hockey was on here. That should be dominating
Hockey
this
was
summer.
on there until Tom got a hold of the list.
Yeah, please don't. I know they're great
NBA and the
athletes.
Olympics. All right, thanks, fellas. We'll see you next week in Grand Forks on Benchwarmers.